Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Depending on where you are in this world, God bless you. This is Gloria White coming to you from Utah, USA. Today, I want to look at men's deception and what we can glean from it at this time in our lives. Remember, Jesus told the disciples when they asked him, "What would be the sign of thy coming and the end of this age?" And the first thing he said to them was, "Take heed that no man deceive you." Well, now, that may not just apply to scriptures or spiritual things, but can also apply to our lives here in the earthly flesh on the surface of the earth. So let's think about what's going on now. We're seeing this war in Ukraine, but is there really a war in Ukraine? Is it true that they're saying Russia doesn't have the resources or supplies to move quickly into Ukraine and take over the capital of Kyiv? Is that true? That Russia would not have a gun and bullets for every soldier that's in their army? Are there not enough bombs for them to completely wipe Ukraine off the face of the map? I mean, they've been at this since the 25th of February. Look how big Russia is, how big their army is, compared to Ukraine's 1 million military. And why are civilians having to take up arms to defend the capital? Where are their military? Where are their soldiers? Why aren't they in the street in the capital? These are very interesting questions. And then it comes back to that right hand, left hand. Watch this hand while the other one is doing something sneaky. What is going on when you're looking at this hand? What is this hand doing? And they've proved over and over again that that's their tactic, to distract Americans, to distract the people of the world from what they're really doing or what's really going on. What's the real news? Because if Russia was looking to take out the country of Ukraine, don't you think they're powerful enough, have enough resources, and army, soldiers, marine, that they could take out that entire country in less than 3 days? I mean, if their intention was to destroy Ukraine, it would already be destroyed. Now we see all the people mass evacuating. Some people left early. Those are people that are highly frightened of things. But we had people that stayed there. There was a guy, how I was watching, and he went to the grocery store day before yesterday. Their grocery store in Ukraine is better stocked than many of the stores here in the United States, which I found quite interesting, considering the number of people in that city and also the number of people that hadn't left. Surely there are not deliveries coming to the grocery store. How do they have all that food in the store? Why can't we get food in our stores? Just some things that's been on my mind, I've been wondering about. And I'm going to hook up in the description box my thoughts on the whole thing. But if we consider what this hand is doing, it's the Ukrainian war. Oh, nuclear threat. Watch out, we're all going to go get blown up. The end of the world, World War III. And on this hand over here, the Durham report is coming out. Who's paying any attention to that? Oh, wait a minute. What's going on with COVID? Countries around the world are dropping mandates and mask requirements. They're giving up on the whole vaccine mandates. Here in America, And in Canada, we just recently saw how Trudeau called his Emergencies Act up because there were peaceful protesters in Ottawa who were there to come against the mandates for COVID vaccine, to do their job that they've been doing the entire pandemic time. And with what were the consequences for the truckers? Do we see 100 million truckers die from COVID because they continued to do their job while everyone was locked up and you could hardly get out to go to the store? But when you went to the store, everything you needed was there because the truckers continued to work while everyone else was hunkered down. But now, as we're coming to the end of this whole pandemic, now they have to insist that the truckers have vaccines to do the same thing they've been doing for the last 2.5 years. That doesn't make any sense to me. So what is this hand doing? The war. We're all going to die. It's World War III. And this hand is going, Durham report. Oh, judge orders all the pages that the FDA used to approve the vaccines for emergency use. They reviewed 400,040 pages of data in 108 days. But they came to the court and said, we need 75 years to get all this data out. We don't have enough staff. Wait a minute. How many billions of dollars do we give to the FDA, the CDC, the NIH, and even WHO? That they can't have enough staff to get these pages out to the public about the truth and the data, the safety data on COVID vaccines. Why are we seeing this delay? Why are they pushing for this delay? And then then they came back after they petitioned the court to have 75 years and said, we were wrong. We're going to need 96 years. Wait a minute. Who has received this vaccine? Who among those people are still going to be alive in 75 to 96 years? To come back and say, hey, what you did was wrong. Or maybe what you did was, at this point, we're questioning, why isn't the data out? It was supposed to have been out when they approved it for emergency use, but it wasn't. So why? If the FDA could review 440,000 pages in 108 days to approve an emergency use for the world's use of this vaccine. But notice that it's the Western countries that are mandating these vaccines and have heavy-handed mandates, controls over the people. Wear a mask, wear 2 masks, wear 3 masks. Get the vaccine, get the vaccine, get the vaccine. While they completely ignore anything else about treating this vaccine. And that's all I can say, is that they're ignoring the doctors who disagree with them. They're ignoring the Americans who disagree with them. They're ignoring the people in France. They're ignoring the people in Italy. They're ignoring the people in UK. They're ignoring the people in Germany and Austria and all these other places. They're ignoring those people that have differing opinions. Well, what's so free about that? Well, how does that work in with the 10, I almost said commandments, but the 10 rights that we have that are guaranteed under our Constitution? It's called the Bill of Rights. The first one, free to exercise our ability and right to worship. our right to have free speech, our right to petition the government when we disagree with what they're doing, because they're doing it to the people and for the people. But do the people agree? No, but our forefathers were smart enough, God bless their hearts, to say, you know what? If the people disagree with the government representatives that they sent to Washington, then they should have the right to petition the government to listen to their concerns. And that's why we have the right to gather peacefully and protest our government's policies that they're creating on our behalf. But why is it being damped down everywhere you look? And then we just recently saw all this commotion in Canada while the Durham report is coming out. And what Trudeau did, he enacted the Emergencies Act to squash legally peaceful protest in Ottawa. Even the police chief said there was no reports of violence. There was no violence reported. They were shoveling the snow from the streets. They were feeding the homeless. They had bouncy houses for kids to play in. It was a family-friendly event. If it was a violent situation, do you think the people of Canada would bring their children there? No, not on your life. Would you have gone to Seattle with your children? Absolutely not. But there, they had the kids and they had bouncy houses set up in the street. This is about as peaceful as you can get. But who was advising Trudeau to use his federal powers to put an end to that protest? And why were they so interested in doing that? I mean, 2.5 years, the truckers are still doing their job, going back and forth. But we haven't heard, hundreds of thousands of truckers have died because they were doing their job and exposing themselves to COVID. We don't know how many have had COVID. But yet and still we're ignoring their religious freedoms to refuse the vaccine, or their medical need to excuse them from receiving the vaccine. We've seen all these government heavy-handed ideas pushed on the people around the world in mostly Western countries. And you have to ask yourself, why were they so heavy-handed? Why do they disagree so strongly against government policies that the Keebler Elf is in charge of here in America, and everybody else around the world is following their lead in the Western countries? We have to say why. We have to look at why. Why were they doing this? Then, if we look at who received advice in regards to Trudeau's Emergencies Act to squash the peaceful legal protesters, that advice came from Joe Biden. Countries around the world are like, we're done with COVID. No more mandates on vaccines. No more lockdowns. No more masks. We're just going to have to live with it. But our president, Joseph Biden, just extended our national emergency because of COVID. Our president has extended that. But it gives him extra powers. And who's coming to Washington? Who's on their way to Washington now? When did the mandates start dropping off in the Democrat states? After the Canadian protest by the Canadians, and Americans supported them. I supported them. It's our freedom, it's our right to do that, to petition our government when we disagree with them. But then we had convoys beginning to form and make plans here in America to go to Washington, D.C. and do the same type of protest, to petition the government for their rights to choose whether to get a vaccine or not get a vaccine. It's a personal freedom that we should be allowed. And under the Constitution, Joe Biden's mandates for 100 employees or more must get the vaccine struck down. Federal workers have to get the vaccine struck down. Why are they striking down these policies that Joe Biden used in executive order? This is not coming from the Congress of the United States of America, who makes our laws. It's not coming from Congress. These are all coming out of Washington, D.C., riding on the back of an executive order. Don't you wonder why they're doing it that way? Don't you wonder why now our whole country's operating system has been riding on the back of executive orders rather than coming out of Congress? I mean, that's how we've always made the laws, is through Congress. Why now have the presidents taken a dictatorial kind of stance issuing executive orders? The President of the United States has powers to put in policies, his policies, to force the federal employees, the federal agencies, not the employees, but the federal agencies, to follow his mandates, his policies. Forcing just those people. That's who he has power over. He doesn't have power over the American people. This is why his policies, his executive orders, keep getting struck down at the Superior Court. Why? Why is he pushing this? It's been proven, and nobody can dispute it, because of the mandated control policies of the social media to only allow the government opinions regarding this whole situation. That you know what I'm talking about. And only what a few, very small amount of people in power are saying can be repeated. If you say anything opposing that, you'll get a strike on your YouTube channel. You'll have your Twitter account canceled. You'll be kicked off of this one or that one. And why does the media not give us the news? News reporters used to investigate what was going on and come back and lay it out for the American people or the people around the world so that we could see and choose for ourselves what to believe. But we're being denied that basic right. We have no right on social media or even with the government, it seems, to disagree or to have a civil discussion regarding it. Every policy is a policy of division. Oh, they're the white racists. Oh, they're the Black Panthers. Oh, they're the Chinese infiltrates. They're the separation, separation, separation. We are all God's people, and we used to get along until we started seeing these almost communist dictatorship kind of style of governing the people coming into play and getting more and more prevalent. Remember, Jesus said, "Take heed that no man deceive you." So we're getting conflicting information coming out of Ukraine. We're getting conflicting information about Putin's stance. Putin first came out and said, I'm not really very comfortable with you guys taking Ukraine into the NATO, because then you're going to want to take the NATO forces and the military might and put it right on my border. And I'm not down with that. He wasn't any more down with that than we were when Russia put nukes in Cuba right on our back door. Well, Cuba's like miles and miles and miles from America's shore. But Ukraine butts right up against Russia's border. So I could see Putin's objections there as being valid. The other thing that was very interesting to me is that our president, Joseph Biden, actually said Ukraine wants to become a NATO member. The interesting thing about all that is that Ukraine was not even eligible to join NATO because there were conflicts going on in their country. And no country can join NATO if there's any kind of civil disturbances, any kind of fighting on that soil. They can't draw them into the NATO if NATO is there as a peacekeeping organization. They're not going to take in someone with, civil discourse into the NATO. They could never become a member of NATO under their current conditions that were happening. Why weren't we told that? Why didn't President Biden say that? Take heed that no man deceive you. We're getting conflicting reports coming out of Russia and coming out of Ukraine. What's really happening? We see pictures that the streets are just like regular. There's hardly anybody on the streets because people have taken shelter in their underground malls and places where they feel safe because they really don't know what's going to happen next. And they're worried. And people have been there, and people are still there in Ukraine. But Putin's coming to wipe out the whole country. He's going to just destroy Ukraine. And he's not going to stop there. He's going to go into Georgia, and he's going to go into here, and he's going to go into there. But yet they're reporting at the same time he doesn't have the supplies to even go in and take over Ukraine. So what is the truth? What is real? Question everything. Look for the truth. Seek it out with all your might. Now, with all that said, now, I want to look at some scriptures because I think it's important. And I'm actually taking these scriptures from another channel. But they're very pertinent to what's happening now. Let's look at Psalm 2. If you want to get your Bibles out, Psalm 2. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, and who is his anointed? Christ. Who are we? We are Christ. Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill in Zion. I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, Thou art my son. This day I have begotten thee. Then let's go to Proverbs 1, verses 10 through 15. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, Come with us, let us lie wait for blood. Let us lurk privately for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave and whole, as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us, let us all have one purse. One purse, one world order, one world religion, one world military. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy feet from their path. Then we're going to go to 1 John chapter 5. 1 John chapter 5. It'll be way to the back of your Bible. 1 John chapter 5. And let's look at verse 19. And we know that we are of God, and the whole world lieth in wickedness. As we know that the Son of God is come, and hath given us understanding, that we may know him that is true. And we are in him that is true, even in his Son Jesus Christ. This is the true God and eternal life. Little children, keep yourselves from idols. Who among us has prayed and asked God, God, show us the truth. Let it be exposed that we may view it and come to our understanding in truth about what's really going on in this world, who is really in power, and why are they promoting these policies? Why are they not allowing any kind of opposition? Not even an oppositional, but any other opinion? Why is just their words the truth? Why are just they allowed to speak their truth, but not allowing anyone else to speak about truth, or any truth, or any opposing truth, opposite to what they're saying, anything that differs from what they're saying? That's like communism, where the people, like in China, who are under communism, they have no right to petition their government, although they can complain. But they better be careful, and they better not protest. If you remember Tiananmen Square, if you don't, look it up. They sent tanks to get the people out of Tiananmen Square because they were protesting. Kind of reminds you of stormtroopers in Canada, huh? Why? Why did they need that kind of force for a peaceful protest? And what's going to happen when our People's Convoy, Freedom Convoy, arrives at Washington? They've already called out the National Guard. They haven't even got there yet. They're only about halfway across the country. But yet and still, the National Guard has been out in force there in the Washington, D.C. area for over a week. Why? Ask why. Pray to God for the answers. Pray to God for the truth to be exposed. Pray to God and ask Him to give you understanding, to give you clarification, to show you the truth. Be careful that you are considering and examining and questioning what is the truth. Remember, Jesus is the truth, the life, and the way, right? Okay. So we want to be like Christ. Now let's go to Matthew chapter 22, verse 15. Then went the Pharisees and took counsel how they might entangle him in his talk. And they sent out unto him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, Master, we know that thou art true, and teacheth the way of God in truth. Neither carest thou for any man, for thou regardest not the person of men. Tell us therefore, what thinkest thou? Is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar or not? But Jesus perceived their wickedness. Jesus perceived their wickedness and said, Why tempt ye me, ye hypocrites? Show me the tribute money. And they brought unto him a penny. And he said unto them, Whose is this image and superscription? They said unto him, Caesar's. Then saith he unto them, Render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. So, Caesar was the government, and Christ was the church and is the church, and we are the church. Take a lesson from Christ. It should serve us very well in our hunt, in our endeavor to find the truth of the whole situation that's going on in the world. Why are we being distracted? Look at this hand, look at this hand. Do not look at the Durham report. Do not look at the People's Freedom Convoy. Do not look at the changes that are coming out from the CDC, from Pfizer, the manufacturer, from Moderna. Don't look at these reports. We're kind of trying to sneak it all out now while people are watching the other hand. We have to hurry and get this stuff out because the judge is forcing them to release the data that they used, the 444,000 pages of data that the FDA looked through in 108 days to approve an emergency use. And something else that's been reported is that the CDC has changed the way they're counting COVID cases. In other words, they're not counting anyone who's admitted to the hospital for, say, a broken leg, who tests positive for COVID, who has no symptoms. They are no longer adding them to the COVID count. Things are changing. The truth is coming out. Pray to God that He fully expose the truth to the people. And let's keep a very close eye on what exactly is going to go on when the People's Freedom Convoy reaches the edges of Washington, D.C. What kind of policies will be used? What kind of force will be used? Will they meet with the truckers? Will they talk to the people? Or will they withdraw and send in the stormtroopers? What are we going to see happen to our right to petition the government when these people, these truckers, and all the people that are with them, and all the people on the freeway overpasses, supporting them and urging them on, and saying, go, yeah, America, freedom, 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 waving the American flags. What are they going to do when they reach Washington, D.C.'s, the edges of Washington, D.C.? And I fully urge them not to go into Washington, D.C. And the reason being is because when the January 6th event occurred, there were people in a tunnel, and the police shot in tear gas. Well, then the people started rushing out, and they knocked this woman down, and this woman was on Adderall and had been for 15 years, or maybe it was 10. I don't want to misquote that. But she had been on it for many years. Anyway, she was knocked down and hit her head, and she was unconscious. And a police officer named Lilla Morris came, picked up somebody's walking stick, and beat the woman to death. Now, someone that was there and had videotaped the event filed a police brutality report. And so their internal affairs did an investigation, looked at all the videos, and pronounced that it was, let's see, and I can never remember the wording of this, but I did write it down because I could never remember. Oh, objectively reasonable for what that police officer did. And then she was cleared from any kind of responsibility for the murder or accidental death, I should say, of this woman who was lying unconscious on the ground. Do you want our truckers in there in that kind of system where they view a police officer beating a woman who is lying unconscious on the ground, while the people are going, no, no, stop, you don't have to do this, stop, stop. She died. She died. Do you really want our freedom fighters, our freedom protesters, our people that are using our ability under the Bill of Rights to petition the government for a change? Do you really want them in that city? I think not. And they're not planning on going in that city either. But the National Guard has already been stationed. What kind of deal is that? Do you see the National Guard rushing in when BLM is protesting? Or when they set up the, what was it called in Seattle, where they made their little thing and they were going to be a little country unto themselves? Where were the National Guard when they were burning down federal buildings and businesses? You never did see them show up, did you? No. But they're lined up waiting for the Freedom Convoy, the People's Freedom Convoy. They're lined up and waiting for their arrival. They've sent out the welcoming committee. Be careful if you do go there. Make sure you are recording everything that you see, everything that you say, because it could be used against you or someone that you film in a court of law. And one other thing I want to add, and I've got like 4 or 6 minutes left before my video runs out, is that the January 6th people who are coming to trial now after a year and 2 months, they're finally getting trial dates. But the Capitol Police, they have 1,400 videos showing the protesters in the Capitol and around the Capitol. that they are not allowing to be used as evidence for the protesters who were arrested and continue to be arrested, because the FBI has gone after everyone that was in any picture at the Capitol. And there was a gentleman just the other day that took his life the day before he was supposed to go to court. Reminds me of Jeffrey Epstein. But then some people don't think what the government's saying is the truth. And we should question everything and ask God to show us the truth. Let Him guide us. Let Him show us, is Ukraine real? Is Russia real? Or is it this hand that we should look at? Is it this hand that we should be watching and ignoring this one? I think we should be watching this hand and praying to God to show us the truth. And this video may get taken down, and that's okay, because whatever they're doing now, when Christ comes, they won't be doing it anymore, because He's going to take all that away from where we are, and we're not going to be exposed to that anymore, because He's coming to reign. He's coming for the church. He's coming for His people, and He's bringing peace with Him. And as always, I love you.